Queens of Breakfast. Voice of the People is a dynamic and interactive radio phoning show that gives listeners a platform to voice their opinions on current affairs, social issues, and community concerns. With engaging discussions, expert insights, real-time audience participation. Voice of the People.
This is Voice of the People right here on the Power Breakfast on 91.3. You can be part of the conversation. You can also catch us on Beats TV, that is channel 92 on Topstar. And you can also catch us live, that is via our Facebook social media platform, that is Power FM Zambia. Now, in Zambia, the president's power to pardon convicted individuals is derived from Article 97(1) of the Constitution, which also grants them the authority to exercise acts of prerogative of mercy. So this can include the ability to pardon, substitute punishment, and grant remissions, a presidential pardon which can be either conditional or unconditional. The unconditional pardon erases the criminal record and treats the person as if they never committed the offense. So when we look at this Article 97(1), which empowers the president, the constitutional provision is the legal basis for presidential pardons in Zambia, which we have them occurring on African Freedom Day. Every time we see them, we see a number of prisoners which are pardoned depending on that year. For last year, 2024, we did see about 588 prisoners were pardoned. So now for this year, we're not too sure. Now, we have been having conversations of how a lot of young kids, children, were defiled. I would say defilement cases have been rampant, and there have been an occurrence that has been very bad, and we've been talking about it. So they are also parts of the inmates. Now, on the day that the president will decide to pardon the rest of the prisoners, the other prisoners that will be pardoned, the question is, should he also pardon the defilers as well, as he will pardon other prisoners who have different crimes? Some might have been theft, some might be murder, some might be arson, some might be a lot of crimes that were committed, different crimes that were committed by those prisoners. So the question that we want to pose to you is, should the president also pardon the defilers? Because there has been a protest on social media. One of the people who has been very vocal about it was Wezi Mahone, who is an artist. She is also an activist. She went on social media on her Facebook page and she posted that, and she tagged the president saying that defilers shouldn't be pardoned. So what is your take on this topic of discussion?
Do call us up. That's on 0955 997 997 or even on 0979 192 485. This is Voice of the People. We want to hear your take on our topic this morning, and that is, as we are now approaching to African Freedom Day on the 25th of this month, a number of prisoners do get pardoned by the president, but there is a protest. There's a faction of society that's standing up and saying one of those prisoners, or rather a faction of prisoners who should not be pardoned or receive such mercy, should be defilers. Nothing for them. So as Fortress did touch on, activists such as Wezi Mahone did step up and say a government is the organized system of authority through which a society collectively exercises power, establishes law, ensures order, allocates resources, protects rights, and guides national purpose for the common good of its people. She went on to further say, dear Zambian government, keep defilers locked up for the sake of the healing of the survivors, of young children, and to discourage potential would-be offenders. Are you in agreement? Should such privileges, such as being pardoned from one's acts, or rather from one's sentence, should that be applied to every single prisoner because that is their human right? Or should there be certain factions or rather certain areas or prisoners that should not get such privileges, or rather such, let's say, mercy in some cases? What is your take on that? Are you in agreement? Are you in disagreement? That's once again on 0955 997 997 or even on 0979 192 485. What is your take on it? Should we really put a stop and say only these kind of prisoners should get pardoned, the others shouldn't at all? Or is that unfair and an injustice to now just one's human right?
You know, this actually even brings me to the question, if we're going to be biblical about it, are sins equal? Do you think sins are equal?
Yes, I think a sin is a sin regardless.
The person who has murdered someone and the person who has stolen,
A sin is a sin.
they have still committed a sin.
Yes.
So can we use that analogy for this particular situation? Can it apply?
Possibly. What's your take? Or possibly not. That's on 0955 997 997 or even on 0979 192 485. And actually, even coming off the back of this conversation is how 19 suspects have escaped from lawful custody at Mansa Central Police Station within Luapula Province. And this is believed to be within an incident that occurred in the early hours of 19th May between 02 hours and 02:50. So, I mean, even these ones who possibly could have been part of the list of people who would have been pardoned. Maybe, you never know.
Yeah.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
We are wonderful. May you please tell us your name and where you're calling from?
This is Moses from Shangom.
Okay, go ahead, Moses. What's your take?
I mean, my take on this issue is that, everyone deserves a second chance, People learn their lesson, and, when you go to prison, there's so many things that happen in terms of, rehabilitation. So, at the end of the day, people deserve a second chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel sins are equal?
Sins are equal, but, circumstances differ, Yeah.
So can we say the same thing for those who have been incarcerated for defilement?
I mean, in what context exactly? What do you mean exactly when you say sins are equal, but in regards to people that have deferred?
Okay, so we're going to use this analogy to say, if somebody has committed a crime, right? This person stole a phone. They are in prison. This person killed somebody. They're in prison. They might be sharing the same cell. The president decides to pardon all of them. And then the society on the outside is saying that defilers should still be in prison because we did see a lot of them coming up, especially child defilement, which I'm sure you were seeing the reports. So, yes, a section of society is saying that it's like those people have to still be in prison because the type of crime they committed is unforgivable.
It's unforgivable, yes.
Yes, so what should happen? Should they be pardoned or should they still be there? So maybe they should learn their lesson, because if they are pardoned, don't you think it's also going to motivate other people to say, if I commit this crime, the possibility of me being out is very high as well?
I mean, at the end of the day, it just depends with the number of years they're saving. And, at some point, we as human beings, we learn our lesson to say, I committed a crime.
Yes.
And, sometimes people learn their lesson. So what I'm saying is that everyone deserves a second chance,
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Moses, thank you very much for coming through.
Thank you.
Okay, you can also be part of the conversation. The number is 0979 192 485 or 0955 997 997. Should defilers be pardoned as well, as we'll be approaching Africa Freedom Day, where the president picks a certain amount of people to pardon them? Hello, you're through to the Power Breakfast.
Good morning, the Queen's Breakfast.
Good morning, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Fortress. How are you doing?
We're doing fine, thank you. Who are we speaking to and where are you calling us from?
Mapunga Marego from, Jim, Russia.
All right. Now, go ahead with the contribution, Maponga.
For me, my take is a sin is a sin. and they should be seen as equal, because just like rape and these other crimes, yes, they face different charges according to the courts of law, but think of it as, as a Christian, a sin is a sin. Somebody that stole a lollipop in a convenience store and somebody that killed somebody, like the sins are equal. I know that sounds unfair, but God is a fair God and is just, So even when you're treating somebody that has committed that crime or that offense, you should treat them equally. And so if the president is pardoning somebody that killed somebody, and somebody that, did something else, he should as well pardon somebody that committed rape. Like the previous caller said, people learn through mistakes, So obviously, them going to prison, it will open their minds and realize to say, that's not a good thing to do. They realize to say, being a rapist is, not good for the community. There are so many things that the prison will teach you. I know people that have gone to prison, that have come out and they're doing great right now. I'm not saying they did worse crimes or I know people like Owas Raymape. I don't know what he committed, but look at him now. He's a successful person. So I feel like the first caller said, people need second chances. They learn through mistakes. They should be judged equally, and if the president is pardoning people, he should also pardon those people that were defilers or rapers. Obviously, they've learned their lesson. They've saved part of their time, like the jail time, but also they deserve to be treated equally.
Now,
Thank you.
Maponga, what's your take on the fact that activists like Wezim Hone are saying that when these prisoners who are defilers, once they are released, they're saying that it also affects the healing of survivors and the young children as well, who they possibly, let's say if it was a father, it was an uncle, the uncle goes back to the home of the victim, and that therefore re-traumatizing the victim?
I mean, it's the same with criminals, Shekaina. It's the same. If let's say I kill somebody today, and then I'm sentenced let's say 30 years in prison with hard labor, and then let's say save 5-10 years and then I'm pardoned. What's going to make you think I will stop killing people? Won't I be harmful to the community? Obviously I will, right? So same applies to rappers or defilers. They've learned their lesson and they're willing to make amends with the community. So give them an equal opportunity.
Okay. All right. Maponga, thank you very much for coming through.
All right, thank you.
All right. You can also be part of the conversation. This is Voice of the People. So just a little bit of context. The president's power to pardon convicted individuals is derived from Article 97(1) of the Constitution, which grants them the authority to exercise acts of prerogative mercy. Now, what is prerogative mercy? This phrase encompasses the various ways the president can exercise clemency, including pardons, substitutions of punishment, and remissions. Right, so there is the conditional versus unconditional pardons. A conditional pardon may come with certain requirements or restrictions, while an unconditional pardon completely removes the conviction from the individual's record. So the question that we are posing to you is, should also defilers be part of the conversation? Should they be pardoned when the president decides to pardon prisoners?
What is your take on this? Do call us up. That's on 0955 997 997 or on 0979 192 485. Are you in agreement with activists who are saying that prisoners, especially those who are incarcerated because of defiling, or I'll say rape as well, or rather mainly defilement of children, should not be pardoned whatsoever? Or are you of the take of saying, at the end of the day, a crime is a crime, and if they are willing to change, they've realized the error of their ways, and they are reformed, they should be let back out into society? What is your take on this? Do call us up right now. Do send us a message as well. That's once again on 0955 997 997, or even on 0979 192 485. Is there really a line of whereby everyone is equal and fair? We've all got human rights that must be respected. Or should we say that certain crimes, possibly, maybe we should just not give them any chance of pardon so that they learn their mistakes, and also to deter potential would-be defilers, as certain activists are saying, and to protect the rights of especially the survivors, whereby they would possibly get traumatized with having that person who victimized them in the first place being brought back into the family, brought back into the community in the first place, and maybe even harming their healing journey.
Exactly. And we also had the no bond, no bail hashtag that was going on for defilement cases. Like, no defiler deserves to have a bond, no defiler should be bailed out of jail. So this also now brings us to the conversation that there is a possibility that the president might pardon prisoners on African Freedom Day. And they might be random. He might pick random individuals, and also maybe it might be based on their behavior in prison, right? That is also a factor. If they have been behaving correctly, if they have been adhering to the rules there in prison, so they also have a chance. They have a higher chance. You can come through. That is on 0979 192 485 or 0955 997 997. This is Voice of the People. We are live on Beats TV. That is on channel 92 on Topstar, and we are also live on Power FM. That is 91.3 FM. So you can be part of the conversation. Does this bring out the question of freedom applies to everybody, or sins are equal, or sins are unequal? I might say. Hello, it's you to the Power Breakfast. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We're doing well, thank you. Who are we speaking to?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to contribute.
All right. What's your name and where are you calling us from, please? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
This is Musonda calling from Chaisa.
All right, Musonda, go ahead with the contribution. What's your take?
Abantu abakubaleka tebakola mukati ama-sex offenders kubaleka tebakola mukati tabasanga. That's my contribution.
Before you go, Msonda, I wanted to ask you this question. Ushe kutwalando kwebati certain crimes that have been committed with these prisoners, freedom only applies to a certain part of them. Isn't that being unfair in a way, whereby Bambibara Shara and some of them will be pardoned on the presidential pardons accord? Hello?
I think we may have lost him. You can call us up. That's once again on 0955 997 997 or on 0979 192 485. This is Voice of the People, where we're giving you a chance to have your voice heard, to speak up, give your query, your comment, your questions, whatever it might be, your perspective as well. And that's once again on 0955 997 997 or on 0979 192 485. And our topic of discussion today is how we've got African Freedom Day, which is coming up on the 25th of May. And usually on that day, the president gets to extend freedom to prisoners, previously incarcerated members of society, giving them a chance to actually have presidential pardon, whereby they are let out and they're basically brought back to a state of whereby they were the way they were before they got imprisoned or before they got convicted. And now we do have certain factions of society who are coming up and speaking up before the 25th of May, saying that defilers should not be part of the list of people that get to receive the presidential pardon. And some of the reasons as why they should not be receiving that pardon is because, first of all, it harms the healing of the survivors, it harms the healing of the young children, and it would encourage would-be offenders. or especially those who are possibly thinking of, I guess, defiling their victims. But when they see that if I get arrested, I do have a chance of actually going scot-free without serving my entire sentence or my full term.
Yeah, they might have that thought in mind, but I mean, it might be random, but they also have that thought that maybe I might see the light of day. So we do have a message here from Bethany saying they shouldn't be allowed to even speak or see the light outside. There's no validity to devouring a child like a beast, taking their innocence and giving. So she's saying no, it's not supposed to be like that. Do you beg to differ, or do you agree to say they shouldn't be allowed to go outside? They shouldn't be allowed to even have certain privileges in jail. Like they shouldn't even, they just need to be castrated in as much as they can. They are convicted, yes, but they're in prison. It needs to be worse. They need to feel the pressure that they are in prison because they defiled it. Hello, it's you to the Power Breakfast. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Who are we speaking to?
No, this is Mr. Abraham.
Mwansa Abraham, go ahead with a contribution.
I just want to say a pardon is a pardon. Like everyone needs a chance, a second chance. So a sin, there's no small sin, there's no big sin. Every sin is a sin. So if they have to be pardoned, then let them be pardoned, given a second chance.
Okay, so
We can't. You can't know even they have changed or not. So if they are given a second chance, that's when they will see to what they did was wrong, and I did not have to do it again.
Okay, so certain sections of society are saying that the reason why they want defilers to specifically, like just child defilers, and no other person who has committed a crime, but just child defilers shouldn't see the light of day because of the type of crime they have committed. Yes, there are certain types of crime, but they are saying that this crime is worse than the others. Do you agree with that?
No. Sometimes these things happen accidentally. So you see that sometimes when they are arrested, they realize to say, oh, what I did was wrong. If I'm to give them a second chance, I will never repeat this again. And if you give them a second chance, they will teach others to say, this is wrong and this is right.
But Mr. Mwansa, what about the other argument that says that now, let's say if it's an uncle who you stay with who defiled, let's say, your child, and then they get pardoned, they come back into the house, isn't that going to traumatize the child again?
Yeah, it might be, but the thing is that as human beings, we are not the final judges. And the final judges is God.
So now, are you going to explain that to a child to say your uncle was in prison because she might have reported to somebody, a parent at home, and he has gone to prison. Now he's back. How are you going to explain to the child now?
I have to teach my child to learn how to forget, to forgive, and to forget. Because we go to church about forgiveness. No matter how deep the sin is, but God forgives. So we also need to forgive as the children of God.
Now, before we let you go, one more question. In Zambia, we are made up of different religions. We have Hinduism, we have Muslim, and we have different teachings. So are we saying that this only now applies to Christians, just Christian homes, to say you have to forgive your neighbor?
No, but in fact, it depends on how you feel it, how you want to take it. Yeah, because if you want to forgive, then you will forgive. But if you don't want to forgive, it's up to you. Yes.
Okay, noted. Thank you so much for calling.
Okay, thank you.
This is Voice of the People. Once again, you too can have your voice heard. Do call us up. Do send us your messages. What is your take? At the moment, a movement that is kind of gaining traction is how there is no pardon for sexual offenders. We've also got organizations or CSOs such as Action Against Sexual Violence standing up. We've got Wezi Mhone, one of the bigger names standing behind this. And it's been going on for a couple of days, whereby she also took to a social media page to write about it, saying that they should be, it hampers the healing process of victims. Hello, good morning. We've seemed to have lost that caller. Do call us up. That's once again on 0955 997 997 or on 0979 192 485. And so she says, let me remind you, it seems like some of you are quick to forget. Not too long ago, a little girl aged 5 years old in Nsaka's Mtendere area was reported to have allegedly been defiled by 4 different men. The time will come and those men will be taken to court and convicted for what they did to that little girl. When the conversation about pardoning those tried and convicted for hurting the innocent child, why would any Zambian debate about whether they must be released early for their jail sentence through a presidential pardon? Where are the men who are saying bring back the death penalty? How come men are now excluding offenders convicted of sexual violence against children and saying that it's too harsh? What they did to the 5-year-old doesn't qualify them to serve the full sentences without parole? Weren't we championing stiffer punishment together? Now that the topic is no longer trending, you say we must forgive perpetrators by releasing them early. How then are we going to combat violence against vulnerable people, children and women if we lukewarm as society when it comes to punishment? She also went on to further now touch on forgiveness as being Christians, but then she said that let children who survive these horrific crimes grow up and heal without the slightest chance of meeting their predators. Remember that some of these people are their own family members, biological fathers, grandfathers, uncles, brothers, cousins. Think about the healing process of the survivors. Think about would-be offenders. When there is no leniency seen, many will avoid harming little children. 25 years is a long time. Keep your hands off our children. Are you in agreement with her? Are you in disagreement with her? Again, as how they say, every single sin is a sin, right? There's no one that's bigger. There's nothing that's smaller. At the end of the day, a crime is a crime. And the offenders in every crime,
a crime is a crime, but then somebody who has stolen a phone and somebody who has murdered somebody, there already you are weighing it. You'll be like, that one just stole a phone, that one took someone's life.
But to play devil's advocate on that end, so the person whose phone was stolen, what if that is the last phone you had, where there was your CV, there was the number?
You can replace a phone. Can you replace a human life?
But that's what I'm saying.
You can't.
No, listen. I'm saying that there's a victim within that, right? Whereby their phone was stolen. That is maybe the last phone that they had. Same the way it is with murder. They are victims. They've lost a family member. Same. So basically, every single crime has got victims. So can you now weigh whose pain is much more than another's?
You can weigh it because that is a phone. A phone can replace.
What if that was like a last phone you had with your last money?
You'll find your way out. You will find your way out. I mean, I think we cannot weigh this with human life. Now we can not weigh this with human life.
So then, if we're going to,
it's a different thing.
If we are weighing, right? So then, would you say that?
Would you prefer? I'm going to ask you this. It's going to sound a little bit diabolical.
Okay.
It's going to sound a little bit diabolical. Just a disclaimer. Would you prefer somebody mugged you? They took what you have, because everybody, when somebody is being mugged or they're about to be robbed, they're like, just take whatever you can. Don't kill me. That's what you say. But would you prefer they hurt you? Then they take your phone.
To be honest, I'd prefer neither.
Exactly, but
don't hurt me neither.
In that situation.
So my point again then is, if we're to bring it to
you
the
haven't answered
issue,
my question.
Neither. I wouldn't want any of them.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. That you wouldn't want to be killed, but then a lot of times you have seen those scenarios. They say prefer you get the money or you get everything, knowing that those are material things that can be replaced, but a human life can be replaced, Shekinah. That's different.
I'm not disputing. I'm not disputing that a human life can be replaced.
So it's not equal already.
So then, if we now bring it to the sexual offender's end, right? We pardon a murderer, but then we keep the defilers. Are we saying that then the pain of somebody who lost their loved one via murder is not as important as the one who unfortunately had their daughter, had their sister, their mom defiled? So should we not keep the murderers also in jail then?
We have to keep the murderers in jail.
So should we keep both defilers and murderers?
We have to keep the murderers and defilers, but now the conversation is defilers. We have to keep the defilers in jail.
But we're saying
so that because now we had.
So isn't it unfair then for the ones? So isn't it unfair for then those who are victims of people who murdered their loved ones, saying that everybody's championing, saying keep the defilers, but then they're saying, but even if they killed your father, that's okay.
But then
isn't that unfair for them?
Defilers are a different breed of people.
But you're weighing, isn't it?
I'm really weighing that.
Human life
they're different. They're very different type. Okay,
At least your daughter is still there, but another one, the whole family was taken.
And then she's there, but then she's traumatized.
So they killed your father in front of you.
So
you're also traumatized.
Yes, that
and
happened.
they let the person who killed your father go.
But that
person is your neighbor, and they move back next to you.
Okay.
You see,
I
it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope. Who do you let go? Whose crime is bigger?
But I do feel
they're all victims in the entire situation.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Which is which though? So again, that is the bigger question. What is your take on this? Do call us up on 0955 997 997 or on 0979 192 485. Are we all going with the notion of a sin is a sin? They're victims in every situation.
A sin is equal or a sin is unequal?
Yes. So are some just a little bit more than others?
We weigh sins, to be honest. We weigh sins to be like,
but
yeah, you stole this. You killed that person. Okay, that's just too much. You could have maybe marked them, but then decided to kill them, to end their lives.
Isn't that then unfair? Because we are not God. We didn't create those people.
We are not God, but then that's why human laws exist, so that you realize that you're not supposed to commit crimes. That is why the police exists, for law and order. You have to be aware as a human being that I'm not supposed to do this. I can't just, because I disagree with you, Shekinah, right now, I kill you. Why? Why would I have done that? It's a crime. Yes, human laws exist to keep us in I would say in a straight line, right? So that we know that if you cross this line, you have committed a crime, you're going to pay for it. Just like we have learned that in the Bible there is judgment awaiting every single human being.
Yes.
And then in other religions they say that judgment happens when you die. For Christians, there's something else. They say we're going to wait for Judgment Day. So when you die, you are asleep, you don't know what's going on, you're going to wait for God to come back, Jesus Christ to come back down and judge us. But then in other sections of society, they say when you die, you are judged there and then. You either go to hell or you go to heaven. The human understanding of you either perish or you're either in heaven because of the deeds that you did in life. It might be the good deeds or the bad deeds. So the same thing happens with the law. The same thing happens with us human beings here on earth. The prison exists for us to understand that when you commit a crime, you're going there. And hello, it's you to the Power Breakfast.
Hello. Unfortunately, we have lost them. You can go ahead, Fortress.
Yes. So I was saying the prison exists to remind you as a human being that you're not supposed to cross that line. You're not supposed to go ahead stealing people's stuff, because why shouldn't you just work hard for your own? You shouldn't go ahead and kill somebody over human conflict. You can disagree with somebody, but why would you kill them? Honestly.
So then again,
why would you now go and defile a child?
So now
it's not right.
Going by a very argument of saying the law is what keeps people on the straight and narrow, right? But the very same law is the one that dictates that the president can pardon anyone regardless of their crime.
Yes.
So why should we abide by one side of the law, but the other one we throw it away? So should we be fair for everyone then?
So this one exists because humans understood that we can change, right? Yes. There is, like the previous caller said, we can be given second chances in life. You can be given the second opportunity to act in a certain way, to jump back on the straight line. So that is why the presidential pardon exists. That is why in our constitution we have Article 97(1), which says that the president's power to pardon convicted individuals is derived from this same article, which grants the authority to exercise acts of prerogative of mercy. So he can pardon substitutions of punishment or remission. Sometimes the person's crime might be erased. Sometimes the person's crime might be still there, but they'll be free in society. They've been given a second chance, right? Yes. That is understandable. Now, if this is going to be in child defilers' minds, that is the conversation that a lot of these activists are talking about. If they understand that they can be pardoned any time, any day, they can be pardoned by the president as well, they can go ahead and do it again.
So then, again, the pardoning, of course, there are certain, I would say, measures as to who qualifies to be pardoned in the first place. So that's now when the inmates have demonstrated good conduct after going rehabilitation processes that now enable them to reintegrate or come back into society. So let's say if among those people who are being pardoned are defilers, it means they have shown that they have changed. So are we not going to give them the benefit of the doubt?
So if they give that,
Because it's been years, or rather, I would say even months possibly, of showing that, okay, this person looks like they've understood that their crime was wrong, and that they should have never done that in the first place, and that they'll never commit it again. Therefore, we should put them back into society. And like our callers, some of them have said, they can even educate others, would-be offenders, saying that, don't do it, it's not worth it.
I would beg to differ. 09. You can come to
55, or rather 0955 997 997, or on 0979 192 485. What is your take? This is a conversation that is increasing in, I'd say, people either going on either side of the argument, either for the fact that defilers should also be part of the list of inmates who should be pardoned, or on the other end saying they should not be. Nothing, no pardon for defilers whatsoever. That the same energy we had when we said no bail, no bond, should continue even now. What is your take on this? That's once again on 0955 997 997, or on 0979 192 485.
Yes, so we do have a message here. It's saying it's called a prerogative of mercy. No one should be left behind on that. So you are telling us that initial killers or criminals should only be those on pardon. So when you check out the common causes of sexual harassment, don't just check on the front page. Flip to the next also. In fact, those defilers, are they not humans?
Hello? Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Where are you calling from and what's your name?
Nsaka.
Okay. And then Zinayanu?
Cosmos.
Okay, go ahead, Wakosmas.
Yeah, I'm following the program. Yeah, so, okay, according to my own suggestion is, when someone commits a crime, let me say it's a crime, right?
Yes.
There are different types of crimes. So, there is murder. I can give an example of murder and stealing. Yeah, we can weigh a crime. We can weigh a crime according to human law. That's why human law exists. But when you go to the Bible, they say that there's no sin which is greater than the other one. So, yeah, I think on the topic you brought up of the 5-year-old child who was defiled. I think defilers should stay in prison. What's that?
Okay.
Yeah, that's my point.
Okay. You were saying the human laws are a bit contradictory with the Bible, right? Where it says sin is equal.
Yeah, sin is equal.
So what should we follow now? Because human laws.
We are a Christian nation also.
Yes, and we are a Christian nation. So what should we follow here? Because when this comes to this conversation will arise. So where should we go with this?
I think we should follow the Bible because we're a Christian nation. Yeah, so if we can weigh sin, according to the world, we can weigh sin. So which means there are sins which are greater than the others. So like defilement, defilement and murder, like these two, they're too big. Like, how can you defile a child and some stuff? So, defilers and murderers, they should stay in prison. I can say defilement and murder cases, they're just emergencies. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming through.
Alright, thank you.
The same sin can be weighed.
Possibly. What is your take? That's once again on 0955 997 997. We are wrapping up in a bit. This is Voice of the People. Remember, you can still send through your messages, and also do give us, I'd say, what your takes are, especially on certain issues that you believe should be discussed or debated on Voice of the People. Hello, good morning.
Say what your takes are, especially on certain issues that you believe should be discussed.
Hello.
Voice of the People. Hello, good morning. Say what your takes are.
Hello.
Hello, you're through to the Power Breakfast. Okay, I think he's watching us.
Okay, okay. And well, this is all. We are wrapping up Voice of the People. Once again, do remember that if there is a certain area or rather a certain topic or issue that you would like us to investigate or look into further, do definitely send us a message. Do give us more information on it. Leave your number as well. If you'd like to be anonymous, you can also still tell us what the issue is, what the certain areas around this particular matter are. Give us more context, and we'll have somebody come onto the show to be answerable for